You've heard the story a million times, right? The one about Africa, a continent of poverty, of hunger, of endless aid. But what if that whole story is a lie? Today, we're going to dig into a really powerful counter-narrative that Africa isn't poor at all. It's being robbed.
This quote from economist Fadl Kaboub just stops you in your tracks. Africa is not poor. If Africa was poor, we would never have been colonized. I mean, think about that for a second. That one idea, it changes everything. It's the key to this whole story.
And that leads us to this massive central question. How is it possible that a continent sitting on some of the planet's most valuable resources is also home to many of its poorest people? It's a paradox that makes absolutely no sense, until you realize the system was designed to work exactly that way.
So to really get what's being taken, we first have to grasp the sheer scale of the wealth we're talking about. And trust me, the numbers are just staggering.
Let's start with this number, 30%. Just let that sink in. That's Africa's share of the entire world's known mineral reserves, almost a third of all the mineral wealth on the planet.
And when you zoom in on specific resources, it gets even more wild. Africa has up to 90% of the world's platinum, 40% of its gold, and more than half of its diamonds. You know, this isn't just being rich, this is literally being dominant.
Now check this out. Let's talk about the strategic importance of just one mineral from just one country. The Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, produces a whopping 70% of the entire world's supply of cobalt. So, why is that one mineral such a big deal?
Well, it's because cobalt is the magic ingredient in the lithium-ion batteries that power, well, everything. It's in the smartphone in your pocket, the laptop on your desk, and in every single electric car rolling off the production line. There is quite literally a piece of the Congo in the device you're probably watching this on right now.
And the value? Just try to wrap your head around this. The estimated untapped mineral wealth in the DRC alone is $24 trillion. That's with a T. That's more than the entire GDP of the United States. And yet, the DRC is still one of the poorest nations on Earth. How is that even possible?
So yeah, how did we get here? This didn't just happen by accident. It all started with a blueprint, a system that was never designed for development. It was designed for one thing: extraction.
The history of the DRC is a perfect, tragic case study. It kicks off in 1885 with the unbelievably brutal rule of Belgium's King Leopold II. Then in 1960, there's this brief glimmer of hope with independence and a new leader, Patrice Lumumba, who actually wanted to use the country's resources for his own people. But that dream was crushed just months later when he was assassinated with backing from Belgium and the US. And what came next? More than 30 years of a dictator who just looted the nation's wealth for himself. It's a 100-year pattern of theft.
But here's the key. It wasn't just about bad leaders. It was about the economic architecture that was left behind. The colonial design had 3 simple rules for Africa. Rule 1, you supply the cheap raw materials. Rule 2, you buy back the expensive finished technology from the north. And Rule 3, you become the dumping ground for low-value assembly jobs. It's a system perfectly designed to keep you at the bottom. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but that's all ancient history, right? Wrong. Those old colonial structures are absolutely still in place today. They've just evolved. They operate through what are now called structural traps. Think of these traps as a vicious cycle. First, you have the food deficit. It's crazy. Africa has 65% of the world's available farmland, yet it imports 85% of its food. Second, the energy deficit. You have oil-rich countries like Nigeria that have to import almost all of their gasoline. And third, the manufacturing deficit, where economies just assemble parts made somewhere else, adding almost no real value. Each trap forces you to borrow foreign money just to get by, which locks you into a permanent cycle of debt. Now, listen to the words they use to keep this system going. The world talks about giving Africa food security, but all that means is having the ability to buy food, usually with aid or borrowed money. What Africa actually needs is food sovereignty, the ability to produce its own food. See the difference? One creates dependency, the other creates real independence. And if you're thinking this all sounds like some radical conspiracy theory, well, don't take it from me. Listen to the former president of France, Jacques Chirac. He said it out loud. We have to be honest and acknowledge that a big part of the money in our banks comes precisely from the exploitation of the African continent. That's not a secret. That's an admission, right from the very top.
Okay, so the problem is huge. The system is deep. But is there a way out? Is it a hopeless situation? Maybe not.
There's a bold new vision being floated, and they're calling it the bargain of the century.
So this is the big question, isn't it? How do you actually break a system that's been running for more than 100 years? How do you dismantle these traps and finally build something new?
The plan is actually pretty straightforward, but it's also incredibly bold. Step 1, a group of African nations gets together and forms a unified bloc. Step 2, they leverage their collective power, their control over all those critical minerals we talked about. Step 3, they go to industrial powers not with the begging bowl asking for aid, but as equal partners with a deal to offer. And the core demand, the non-negotiable part, is this. We'll give you access to our resources, you give us the technology to industrialize.
And this is the beauty of that bargain. Let's look at what's on the table. What Africa offers is huge. Guaranteed access to the minerals that will power the 21st century, the youngest workforce in the world, and the planet's biggest future consumer market. And what does it get in return? The actual manufacturing tech to build its own industries, which leads to real food and energy sovereignty. This isn't charity, it's a real partnership.
So, let's be crystal clear about this. Africa's resources are going to power the 21st century. The entire green energy revolution, our digital future, it all depends on them. That's not up for debate. The only question left is, for whose benefit? And for the first time in a very long time, the continent might just have the power to make sure the answer is, finally, for its own people.